When hope is gone, undo this lock and send me forth on a moonlit walk. Release restraint level 0. Hey kids, wanna see a dead body?
Hi guys, this is the Void of the Ravenclaw. Welcome back to another fanfiction story. If you like this type of content, smash the like button and subscribe for future videos and updates that I do post on my community tab frequently. If you want to access any of my early content, check out the Discord. Now before we begin this next part, I know the Red Lantern fanfiction won the vote in the community poll. I'm just trying to figure out what I'm going to do with it from where I left off and where I want to take it. It's going to take me time to get a feel for where I want the story to go. So I'll be working on this for the time being until I come up with something worth recording. That's pretty much about it. Let's get right into this. This is the bargain between the evil god and a villain. Let's continue where we last left off in our story. Isizuku is still standing on the roof, gazing at the city in the dead of the night, as all the lights from the bars, nightclubs, and other nighttime activities can be clearly seen in the distance in the city during the nightlife. Isizuku walk off the roof and begin to run down the roof, wall of the building, like the rules of gravity was just a suggestion, not an actual fact. When he got close enough to the street level, he leaped off the wall and went into a roll, then immediately ran forward without stopping his momentum, trying to get to the bad parts of the city as fast as possible. Isizuku always had the ability to move more quickly in a unnatural speed. Izuku's fast, but not as fast as a speedster. But he's faster than a normal person. Had trained to get that sort of speed. Once he finally made it to the bad part of town, Isizuku ran towards the alley and began to jump onto the wall from wall until using the walls as a springboard to get to the top of the roof of one of the buildings. Isizuku immediately noticed some street punks. He wasn't sure if these members of the street punk gang, it's the same members as he saw earlier today, so he decided to shadow them for a while. They're way too in the open, so engaging with them at this current time would be unwise. He needs to wait until they're in a more secluded area. Why are you waiting? You should kill them now. They're lambs to the slaughter. Patience. The heroes patrol this area often. Let's try not to attract that sort of attention. It is way too soon for that. Zelik. Anyways, to hunt would be too boring if we struck our prey too soon. You're not wrong there, human. The thrill of the hunt is the best part. Very well. Let's see you handle these humans, partner. Isizuku created several small gaster blasters and ordered them basically control them to fly forward to keep a closer watch on his prey. Izuku has found several methods to use his abilities outside of just using the energy beams that the Gaster Blasters can produce out of their mouth. Izuku is linked to them psychically. What the Gaster Blaster sees, Izuku sees. They're connected, and he can control them at any time. There's a limit on how many Gaster Blasters he can control all at once, so he's limited on the number. Izuku clearly can use his quirk in several different ways. Izuku easily kept up with them, but eventually they led to their base of operation, some sort of house near an old wooden pier in the middle of the forest outside of the city limits. Judging by the different lights that's illuminating from the window, they seem to be having some sort of party. As the street punks that he was following entered a large building right next to the pier, Izuku had one of his Gaster Blasters enter the building to get a better idea of their numbers. Izuku disconnected his link to his Gaster Blaster as he deactivated his quirk. There's a lot of them in there, surprisingly. There's at least 10 on the first level of the first floor, and there's another 10 on the second, 20 in total. Izuku noticed a wandering member of the street punk gang. Clearly having a party that he's been shadowing. One of them never went inside the building. As he stood watch, as he noticed, the punk started to walk towards him smoking a cigarette, getting closer with each step. When the street punk got close enough, Izuku covered his mouth with his hand and plunged his combat knife into his heart as he slowly begins to drag the dead body behind the tree and begin to search through his pockets. That was cold, even for you, partner. They're all going to die. Anyways, why should I care? We both know this is not the first time I've killed. I didn't think taking this guy out would deserve you, almighty evil god. Zealot could only chuckle. This is why I find you so amusing, human. I love messing with you. It's always so entertaining. I'll let you get back to your work. I look forward to the bloodbath you're about to create. Almost feel sorry for those poor, unfortunate fools. Almost. As Zealot laughed with a sinister grin on his face and sunk right back into Izuku's shadow, disappearing. Was that done? Let's see what this guy is carrying. As he began to search through the guy's pockets, as he continued to search the dead corpse, not to see anything useful, keys, cell phone. Beyond that, there was nothing on him. Only thing semi-valuable is the lighter and his wallet. But beyond that, everything else was completely useless. As he tossed the wallet to the side, not even interested. But he kept the lighter and put it in his pocket. As he wiped the blood from his combat knife with the guy's clothes and turned his back on the dead corpse and placed the combat knife right back into the sheath that's attached to the lower of his back. accompanying his other hunting knife. Izuku took a liking to combat knives. I said hunting knife, but it's most like a combat knife, basically. Anyways, let's continue. That's the only weapon he uses outside of his quirk. He's not much for guns, but he knows how to use them. And if he has to, he'll use a gun. But his main weapon will always be his combat knives. If he needs to get close, up and personal. If he hasn't already killed them with his gaster blasters, he likes to get up and close and personal with his combat knives. And because of the past information he got from his gaster blasters, he got the complete layout of the entire building. So he's not going in completely blind. But the first thing he needs to do is cut off the power. Luckily, to the side, there's a smaller building that seemed to be their generator. Like I said, it's a smaller building right next to the main headquarters of the street gang. There are several gang members in front of the entrance of the generator building. Izuku could clearly tell that's where the generators are at because of the loud noise of the engine of the generators. Izuku didn't have time to scout this building as well, so he proceeded to confront the two guards in front of the building, guarding the generators. Like I said, the generators were quite loud, even from outside of the building, so the sound easily concluded what's inside. Izuku's footsteps was unheard because of the loud noise from the generator from inside the building. He creeped upon his new targets without them being aware of his presence. Izuku slapped his hand onto the ground as bone-like spikes shot out of the dirt, piercing the two street punks like pin cushions. After making sure the two street punks were completely dead, he searched the pockets, finding wallets and a few other useless items, as he threw the dead bodies into the water near the pier that's nearby. It's just an old wooden pier that you find in a lake or, water base that's not a ocean. Luckily for Izuku, these punks decided to have their headquarters out of the city limits, so Izuku doesn't have to worry about being too loud in his approach. As he created a large gaster blaster, the moment Izuku snapped his fingers, the gaster blaster opened his humongous mouth and began to charge up a beam of energy. And immediately, once the beam was fully charged, a huge green beam of energy completely engulfed the entire building, completely vaporizing it. When the energy was cut off, the building right next to headquarters was completely gone. Only burn marks was the only evidence that there was a building there in the first place. And a couple pieces of generators that managed to survive the assault lay scattered all around the ground. Lack of power made all of the street gang members come rushing out of their headquarters, seeing what the problem was with the generators. That's when Izuku stepped out of the shadows with his two combat knives in his hands, as several more medium-sized gaster blasters materialized in front of them, and immediately opened fire, shooting out small to medium-sized green beams of energy as the street punks, members of their gang, scatter, while Izuku wait patiently for the first one of them to approach him, as two beams as two beams come from the air, blowing up their vehicles, destroying their means of escape. Izuku has no intention of allowing any of them to survive to tell the tale. He's uncertain if he has all the members here right now, but he doesn't really care. He'll hunt them down later if he wants to. As he's still sitting there waiting for someone to approach him, Izuku created more Gaster Blasters to see what he can do, to do a little bit of the experiment. He was able to summon larger Gaster Blasters, a few more, until he started to feel tired. So he stopped and just created smaller ones and medium-sized ones with no issue. It was sufficient enough for him without him going overboard. The smaller to the medium-sized ones might not constantly drain his stamina while active compared to the larger versions of his Gaster Blasters. That's why Izuku's only use a few of the bigger ones. More like finishing moves than anything else. Then he dismissed them immediately afterwards. It's just the best way to use his bigger Gaster Blasters in midst of battle. You have the full intention of eliminating or killing that weakness at some point, but for now, it's proficient enough to get the job done. As the first street punk member of their little street gang finally approach him swinging a metal bat, only for Izuku to sidestep the swing and chop off the man's hand that was holding the bat. As the bat fell from his hand, as the severed hand dropped to the ground, as the street punk grabbed his wrist, screaming out in pain. That's when Izuku plunged one of his combat knives into his chest, killing him. As his severed hand fully dropped to the ground before his body did. Before he fell to the ground completely, Izuku chopped off his head with his combat knife. And that got the reaction what he wanted, enraging the rest of the street punk gang members. As more start to rush towards Izuku, ready to avenge their fallen comrade, completely ignoring the Gaster Blasters that are still in the sky, blasting their beams at them. That's the exact reaction Izuku was hoping for, using their anger to completely dominate them, to completely dominate the fight, using these lower life forms, these lower beings, emotions against them. That has always came easy for Izuku, to get his opponents to become unemotional or unbalanced with their emotions, forcing them to make mistakes in the middle of the battle, and naturally Izuku would capitalize with brutality and cold hard logic, capitalizing on their mistakes. He began to weave around all of the street punks, swinging their metal bats and chains with great ease. As a charging street punk got too close for comfort, so Izuku kicked him in the side of the head with a spin kick, then slammed his hand onto the ground, making several bone-like spikes shoot out of the dirt, killing a few of the street punks. There's only about 17 left out of the full group of 20. As Izuku's keeping track with cold calculation, as more members of their gang keep dying, and not all the street punks were killed by Izuku personally. As he started to take out their numbers, while his floating gaster blasters fire off more beams of energy from their mouths, easily cutting down their numbers even further, making the street punks fight on two separate making them fight two separate battles at the same time, confusing them. They're clearly unorganized. It's clearly evident they don't work as a team. It was quite easy for Izuku to pick them off, while experimenting with his quirk, with his powers. Of course, naturally, there's a limit on how many gaster blasters that can be out all at once. So he's certainly So he's limited. Even if he's not using his bigger version of his quirk, he's still limited on a certain number. He's using the bigger version of his quirk. Instead of using the smaller variations of his gaster blaster, he can create and maintain at least 5 at the same time without his other gaster blasters in the area. He would have to deactivate the smaller to medium ones first if he went that route. That's what he did. He deactivated the rest of his gaster blasters and conjured his bigger ones, 5 in total. As the moment the gaster blasters shot off their energy beams, the street punks were completely vaporized. That was charging closer to him. That doesn't mean he killed all of them yet, as one of the street punks pulled out a gun, but he was immediately shot by a green beam of energy, as the gun flew from his hand and skid right in front of Izuku. The leader of the street punks is slowly walking towards Izuku, badly injured, missing his right arm completely, as he watched his gang members die one after another, until he was the only one left, as he collapsed on his knees, as Isizuku picked up the gun from the ground and slowly approached the gang leader. More like ex-gang leader. Not much of a gang leader if he has no gang members left. Why did you do this? Who are you working for? As he coughed up blood from his mouth. Me? Working for something? How amusing. This was nothing personal. Never was. As he pointed the gun to his face. You've been most helpful, allowing me to experiment with my quirk. I tip my hat off to you. Been extremely helpful. Fucking insane. You did this just to test your powers? Of course I did. This was nothing but an experiment. Sadly, this experiment has run its course. That means, my good friend, as he placed his hand over his shoulder, you're no longer useful. You're a goddamn monster. So what? It's not like your opinion matters. You're nothing but a sheep in front of a dragon. Without hesitation, he shot the gang leader in the head with the gun. Without no hesitation, he tossed the gun in the air as one of his gaster blasters destroyed it completely. With an unemotional expression on his face, gazing at the destruction he created. from his little experiment. He didn't see them as people. He saw them as tools to be used. In truth, that's how he sees most people. He views humanity as a means to a end. Out of curiosity, did you notice none of them, these humans you slaughtered, use any abilities? Quirks. I noticed that as well. I don't think the whole gang was here, but I got their leader. This gang could be filled with quirkless people, or some have quirks that's not combat orientated. Quirks are very diverse, and trying to get their information on the register of quirks, or quirk registry, has been most difficult. It has very good security, protecting its servers, almost impenetrable, almost uncompromised. I might be good at hacking, but I'm not that good. If I tried to break into their database, they would have my location and my position, probably in 2 or 3 minutes tops. These weaklings aren't important. It's a pity it ended early. No matter, it's still pretty early. Let's see if we can find more trouble Let's find some more trouble. You don't have to ask me twice. This is far more interesting than watching you sit around, going to that, what you call it, school. That right there is torture. For once, Zelik, we're in agreement. After Isizuku left the area and returned back to the city, Isizuku came across a street gang. Isizuku standing on top of the edge of a building, staring down upon the street gang's protection hustle, trying to get protection money from a nearby store that is still open at late at night. Isizuku looked at his watch. I think we have enough time to run another quirk experiment on these street gang members of whatever gang they're part of. Izuku's not stupid. He could clearly see these gang members are clearly more upgraded compared to the street punks that he massacred not that long ago. They're better equipped with handguns and rifles. They clearly have better equipment. Still very unorganized, but the equipment alone could make the task a tidbit more difficult to deal with. And the fact that they have larger numbers, that they made an old hotel into their base of operation, with a good amount of patrolling the outside of the hotel, making sneaking in almost impossible. Only reason he knows where their base is at is because he followed the gang members that was hustling for protection money to the local stores, and followed them back into their hiding hole, their headquarters, or their main base of operation. A change of plans. Be quite idiotic of me if I would go in now. I would rather not spin the wheel of fate. Wasting our surprise, our element of surprise. Last time I checked, I'm not bulletproof. I'm definitely had to take them down, but I'm going to have to put in a little prep work beforehand. He's going to turn on his back on the abandoned hotel as Zelik opened a portal back to his room. The moment the portal closed behind Izuku, Izuku took off his clothes and put his night gear or his gear off, and put on a more comfortable clothes for sleeping in, and went into bed. Instantly fell asleep, like he didn't just massacre. As he fell asleep soundly, not a single care in the world, almost like he didn't wipe out a whole gang of street punks earlier. And the fact that the location of the murders is so far away, it won't be noticed for quite some time. Only way the bodies would be discovered if a local stumble upon it by going off the trail by complete accident. It's still a possibility, but a small one. Izuku didn't care about disposing of the bodies, so he left them there as they lay. Even if the local police, or the heroes, found the location, Izuku made sure not to leave any evidence outside of the dead bodies, completely erasing his presence. None of his footprints will be able to be seen. Izuku wasn't stupid. Next day, he went to the mall and bought some new shoes and threw the old pair away. So he basically destroyed them. So in case there was any footprints that he missed, they wouldn't be able to match the footprint to the shoes that he just bought. He also bought some running shoes just to seem like it's a natural trip to the mall to get a new pair of shoes to make him seem less suspicious. Getting 2 pair of shoes instead of 1. So in case the cops or heroes watched the evidence through the footage of their cameras in the mall to see if they could find their suspect. After all, he did visit the mall the next day after the murder, so he's being very precautious. He doesn't know how the Japanese police force operate, but the American version police force usually don't leave a stone unturned. They normally don't stop working on a case until it becomes cold or they solved it. The more active Izuku's become at night, the more careful he has to be to make sure nothing leads back to him. With his old shoes completely destroyed, any evidence linking him to the crime scene was severed. With his new pair of shoes, he no longer has to worry about it. He eventually went back home and put on his running shoes and his exercise gear or his training gear, and did his normal routine, his morning exercises. After that was done, he did his morning exercises a little later than normal, but he wanted to go to the mall first. After that was done, he made his way back to his house, to put on some proper clothes. Nothing too fancy, just everyday clothes. After that, he greeted his mother, who's currently making breakfast for the two of them. His father, Hasashi, has already left for work. During the time he was out in his morning exercises, running around the neighborhood. It seems you've been quite busy this morning. I had to do my morning exercises, but I went to the mall first to pick up some new pair of running shoes. My old pair got worn down, so I had to get a good replacement. I bought a pair of running shoes and normal shoes. So what exactly do you got planned today, Mother? I gotta do a couple things around the house. Then I gotta head to work. What do you got planned for the rest of the day, sweetheart? I got a little side project I have to deal with today. From school, I take it. Something like that. I hope you have a good rest of your day, Mom. As he kissed his mother on the top of the forehead, as he made his way towards the front door, grabbing his keys from the key rack next to the door on the side of the wall, and made his way towards the abandoned train station to continue his education of torture, where he currently has his prisoner still in his custody. It didn't take him long to get there and begin to roll out his equipment on the rolling tray. Had the same amount of equipment he had the last time. As he turned on the record player, playing classical music, once again. Despite the man's screams of threats and begging to be released, Isizuku did not halted his progress. He moved like a specter over his tools. As he used his tools like a conductor and beat with the music, and began to use different torture methods, getting some positive results and some negative results. 2 hours turned into 4, 4 hours turned into 6, until the man finally died from pain. He noticed his prisoner is dead as he walked over to the music player and shut it off. How disappointing. He didn't last very long. No matter. No reason to worry over spilt milk. He slightly pulled the head little off of the metal slab table and took out his machete that was on the torture tray and chopped off his head as it fell into the bucket. As the blood begins to drop from his severed neck, pouring onto the ground, as this entire room is built in to safely dispose of blood, as the blood begins to fall into the drains of the room that leads further down below to the proper place to be destroyed properly. Isizuku casually lifts the severed body of the villain onto a hospital bed. Hospital-like bed is a metal slab table that has wheels, and begin to move out of the room, eventually going into the elevator. Then once the elevator stopped to the bottom floor, he approached the room. It only took him a couple seconds, and tossed the body in the incinerator. These are all new additions to the building that Isizuku had built. He had to use not so legal connections to get this place built underneath. They didn't ask any questions if he paid them enough. That's why he wasn't worried about them exposing his location. Everything was custom built. The torture room, and the incinerator room, and a couple other rooms down below. The incinerator room is used to dispose of bodies. After using acid on the parts of the bodies that doesn't get burned, like the teeth and other parts that can't be disposed of easily, he dissolves them into acid. There's a lot of steps to dispose of a body, but at least using this method is most effective method he has access to. Leaving dead bodies around in the open would be too dangerous. And the smell of burning bodies only traveled through the sewer entrance, or the sewer, leaving the population unaware of what exactly he's been doing. As the smell of the dead bodies entered the sewer, not allowing the smell onto the surface, And about time someone eventually figured out the smell, they wouldn't be able to pinpoint the location because of the sewer system is quite complex and vast. Meanwhile, Inko, who seemed to be a devoted, loving wife and a caring and loving mother. But that was only on the surface. The truth is, she's far more dangerous than that. Some people would label her as a serial killer. Always have been. Despite her dark nature, she loves her son and husband in her own way. She's walking through a dark, barely lit hallway, underground, wearing all black. Not a single shred of her skin could be seen outside of her face. Her hands had black gloves over her hands. As she stepped into the room, she immediately opened the solid metal door and saw her victims bound, ready to begin. I hope you three slept well. Sadly, our time here has come to an end. I normally would like to take my time in this. I have rituals I like to maintain and perform with each of my victims. But a mother's responsibility never ends. You see, my son has been a little more distant from me, and I can't have that. Don't worry, you'll be a nice addition to my collection. With a gesture of her hand, they saw was on the shelves of human brains, eyeballs, in glass containers. On the opposite side of the room is shelves with human skulls from her past victims, from women and men alike. She doesn't discriminate. She's not picky. As she brutally slit their throats, one after another, showing no hesitation, no mercy, with a unemotional expression on her face. As she begins to wipe the blood off of the side of her cheek, Inko immediately went to work, extracting all the proper organs to add to her collection, chopping off their heads, dissolving their heads, leaving only their skulls remain, and start to place the organs in specifically jars that was made for such things. As she placed the new skulls, her new trophies, in the proper spot on her shelf, in the torture-like room, or torture dungeon-like room. Inko's not stupid. She knows her beloved son is up to something. She's uncertain what it is. She's hoping her beloved son has took after her more than her father. His father. But she's hoping he has similar darkness inside him, so they have something over to bond over. Isizuku is her very first child. She knows her son loves her. He just doesn't show it a lot. He's always sneaking out of the house late at night, not knowing she knows exactly when he's leaving and when he's going and coming back, in the odd hours of the night. But she's biding her time, waiting for her son to slip up, catch him in the act. Just thinking about her son being just like her, but a smile on her face. As she's hoping her son takes after her more than Hasashi. Of course, her husband has no idea that he's married to a serial killer. She loves the man, to a degree. If he was a danger to herself and her son, she would easily kill him without no hesitation. She might love the man, but she loves her son more. After cleaning up and leaving, she made her way to the grocery store. Like she didn't just murder 3 people, humming a cheerful tune without a care in the world, putting groceries in her grocery cart. That's where we're going to stop it. I'll catch you guys in the next part.